All right, so this is a continuation. It might be like part 3 or part 4 of compound inequalities. It's kind of like a real big section, okay? So compound inequalities, recall that we have and or. And inequalities, you shaded towards each other, or you shade away from each other. You have open and closed circles. Open circles don't have the line under it. Closed circles do. And then we did these 3 problems yesterday. Now, the one thing I want you guys to notice is up here, and inequalities may either have the word and, or they look like this, where X is in the middle. They kind of look like, I guess, like a 3-piece inequality, if you will. Now, or inequalities, Liam, they're easy to notice because they always have this word or. So the way I kind of remember it is, well, if it's not an or inequality, it's and, right? So I don't worry too much about like whether it's and or. I just worry about, is it or? Okay. So and means like this. Think about it when your parents say, hey, you need to take out the trash and clean the bathrooms. You have to do both, right? So kind of look at this. You have both inequalities in one. Do you see that? Or inequalities, they're nicer, okay? You have to, yeah. Sure. All right, so let's see how much you guys recall from yesterday. Why don't you guys try those 3 problems on the board, okay? So right out the gate, if I'm AJ, I'm kind of thinking number 1 and number 2 are and inequalities because the only one that uses the word or is the third one. So I already know 1 and 2 are going to be shading towards each other, and number 3 should be shading away, okay? Angela, you okay? Are you got them done? Awesome. Drew, you done? Okay. Jordan, how you feel about this? You good? How's Bill? Still there? Another minute or so. You just catching up with stuff from yesterday.
Hello. Hi.
All right, let's start going over these. Now, Mackenzie, there's a few things I want you to pay attention to. 1, I want you to look at the symbols. Okay, I'm going to underline them for you. So here, notice my symbols. One has a line under it and the other one doesn't. Now, why am I letting you know this? Because I'm trying to teach you, like, when you're taking a multiple choice test, okay, like the keystones, how to eliminate answers quickly. So up here, this one has a line under it, and this one is open. So if you look at yours, okay, and this is kind of like a teacher trick to see if you're right or wrong. I'm going to look to see if you have a closed circle and an open circle. And if you have two open circles or maybe two closed circles, I know you went wrong somewhere. So be aware of that. Now, in moving forward, okay, I'm going to look to get rid of that +4, so I subtract it. And that gives me real quick 1 is less than or equal to m, which is less than 6. So when I come over here, I'm going to put 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to have a closed circle at 1 and an open circle at 6, and I'm shading in between. Got that, Sophie?
Yep.
You sure?
Yep.
You have a closed circle and an open circle on your paper?
Yep.
Yep.
Positive?
Positive.
Oh, wait.
All right. So number 2.
Happy birthday, Shay.
All right. So for number 2, there's a little bit more to it. These are both going to be open. So now we go ahead and add 5. That's going to give me 2 is less than 2k, which is less than 12. So now I divide everything by 2. And that's going to give me 1 is less than k, which is less than 6. Oh, look at that. It's like the same thing. Open circle, and we're shading in between. How do we feel so far? Good, Angela? Andrew, you doing all right at home?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, number 3. Now this is an OR inequality, so it's going to be shading away from each other. On one of them, I should have a closed circle. On the other one, I should have an open circle. So let's do the one on the left first. All right. Now, Neve, what's your first step on the one on the left? You there, Neve?
Yeah, I'm here.
What would you do
Sorry, I didn't hear
for
you
number
said. Okay. The one on the left, correct?
3? Yeah, the one on the left.
So you do -3 on each side.
Perfect. Then what?
Then don't you divide both sides by 4?
Perfect. So that's going to give me C is less than or equal to -2. So I'm going to put a closed circle right here, and I'm going to be shading to the left. Now, Kevin, what would you do for the one on the right?
+8.
Yeah, let's add 8. And that one gives me C is greater than 7. So I have this or this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh, that was close. Real close.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an open circle, and I'm shading to the right. Everybody good?
No, I'm the 3rd. Oh, this is first period, isn't it?
Oh. Oh my God.
All right.
No.
So here's a keystone, like kind of little break here for you. All right. So up here, okay, there's a couple different ways to do this problem. But if you were listening, Jordan, as I was talking about stuff, right, with the open and closed circles, you can kind of eliminate some of these pretty quickly. Now, Jordan, I just want to know, what type of circles are these going to be? Open or closed? Closed, which means it's not B and it's not D, just because you knew it was supposed to be closed circles. Isn't that pretty nice? Now, what's the difference between A and C? Well, this is an OR inequality, and this one's an AND. What type of inequality is that? Isn't that nice? It's pretty easy, right? Now, you could have done it this way, Liam. You could have said, oh, it's an AND inequality, that's OR, and then you could have gotten it down to C and D. And then you could have been like, oh, they both need to be closed circles. Okay? So that's a different way to do it. The other way you could have done it is you could have graphed it, but I like knowing open and closed circles. I think that's pretty nice. All right. Number 2 says, what is the solution set or the solution compound inequality where 5 is less than 2 minus 3y, which is less than 14? Ready for this, AJ? AJ, first thing I need to do is I look at my symbols. They both don't have lines under it, right? Do any of these have lines under it? No. So I can't eliminate any, but it's worth a shot, right? Now, up here, let's look at these answers. Let's make sure they make sense, okay? This says -4 is greater than y, which is greater than -1, right? Does that make sense to you? No, right? Because how could -4, if we take that y out, be greater than -1? It's not possible. It doesn't make sense. Does B make sense? Is -4 less than y, which is less than -1? Does that sort of make sense? Yeah. So what I'm doing to see if it makes sense real quick is I'm kind of taking out the y in the middle. So this is what I'm viewing in my head. And that didn't make sense, right? Here, take the y out in the middle. Does that make sense? Yeah, it does. Take the y out in the middle. Does that make sense? So let's look at the last one, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So now, just because I looked at my answers to see which ones actually make sense mathematically, I'm down to a 50-50 shot, right? Now, you could kind of take a guess from here, and your odds are pretty good, okay? The other thing I would kind of think about is this. Do you see how there's a negative in front of that y? Chances are I'm flipping my signs, right? Because when you divide by a negative, you need to flip your sign. So when I'm doing this, I'm kind of thinking, well, I have a positive number here and a positive number there. When I divide a positive number by a negative number, I should be getting a negative number, right? So I'm kind of leaning towards B. I haven't done anything. That's just me making an educated guess. I'm running low on time. I got to make a guess, right? That's me making an educated guess. Do you see how I did that? Do you see why I did that? Now, here's actually how you get your answer. So we were able to eliminate it down to B and D. So let's come through and let's do this. All right, we're going to break it up into my 3 sections. 5 minus 2 is 3, which is less than -3y, which is less than 12. Divide by -3, -1, flip my sign. Okay, y, which is flip my sign, -4. Which one has -1 and -4? That one, okay. Do you see why they put that one in there now? They put it in there because they want you to kind of like, if you forget to flip your signs, that's what you would get. Okay, so there we go. Are you okay with that? See how my like intuitions kind of led me, like I made an educated guess that turned out to be right. It's not always about doing 100% of the math all the time. It's about being able to rationalize why it can't be an answer. All right. So I think we're at a good spot to stop.